settled on our topic for today, being the DIGG Stability Vault. So we'll start off by just going, over more of an overview from John on the team. So with that, I'll hand it over to John and we'll kick it off.
Sweet. Thanks, Will. So yeah, to get into the DIGG Stability Vault, it's been something that was really talked about and was supposed to be kind of like a fast follow to DIGG, when Badger was initially launched. And just to give people more context on myself, I was just a community member that participated and kind of helped with Badger a little bit before the launch, just around the community, talking to Chris on some strategy stuff, some ideas around how vaults should be structured, yada yada yada. And then once launch happened, kind of rolled into a bigger role with Badger, helping on just kind of the product side and specifically with DIGG. Badger itself being, the main focus of Badger is the vaults. The idea was to have this rebasing asset. And if you talk to Chris Spada, the founder, like DIGG was actually what the initial idea for Badger was and what brought some of the co-founders together. They all kind of wanted to do something like Ampleforth, but have it pegged to Bitcoin instead of the dollar. Then I think after investigating it, seeing it was going to be kind of difficult to do in isolation, they kind of went with the vault route with the plan of kind of launching DIGG after it. The DIGG Stabilization Vault, I think, is something that was probably just underappreciated for how complex it could end up being and how many different opinions people have on it. So once DIGG launched, the idea was to kind of fast follow with the Stability Vault, but there wasn't a slam dunk option. If you're familiar with rebasing assets in the system, the ecosystem, I tell people that the best rebasing asset is the one that hasn't launched yet. It seems like people are already always very excited about whatever the new model is. Around any rebasing asset, but then when they launch, the actual game theory and economics don't always play out exactly how they anticipate. I think Faye is a great example of this, where I think a lot of people are very confident in it, and you can look at how much money they attracted right out of the gate. A lot of them didn't necessarily understand the economics of how it worked, and I don't think the founders necessarily fully anticipated how people would interact with it, and it's been kind of struggling so far. Similar stories across the board for how things have operated. What we're attempting with DIGG and the Stability Vault is something new, and I would say probably that's why it was a bit underappreciated for the complexity and just the amount of discussion it would drive amongst the internal team. So I think the idea was to hopefully have it be a fast follow and have that bring stability to DIGG. But then talking internally, there wasn't a slam dunk because no one's done this before. No one's stabilized a rebasing asset using purely market forces from the outside through a vault. There have been, like, Ampleforth uses a lot of just the emissions of the Ample token to incentivize people to do different sorts of like LP positions and things like that. And a number of the other rebasing assets kind of have their own mechanisms to ideally bring stability to it, different bonding things and things like that. So this is the first time, though, that it's been purely like, all right, well, we're just going to basically insert what you could consider to be a maximally efficient and benevolent whale into the system, which is this vault. So you wanted to make decisions that the vault itself is kind of acting as if it's someone who has a whole bunch of DIGG that is optimistic on DIGG, is still profit seeking, but wants its actions to support DIGG. So we understand that, to get the most amount of value from the vault, it has to have a lot of assets in it. So to have a lot of assets in it, it needs to be, ideally profitable. And I guess we'll touch on what that even really means in this context. And the more profitable it is, the more people that come in there and put money into it. And then the bigger impact it ideally has on the market and on DIGG itself. So we went through a couple different models internally and then started working with the stabilized team, I guess, a couple weeks or month or so ago. And I think it was just very helpful to have an outside party kind of help, they had their kind of general ideas. We had what we had talked through a good bit, and I think we kind of found a nice solution that incorporated kind of both components. And they've got a lot of experience building, vaults and strategies focused on stabilizing, rebasing assets. And so we settled on a general model. I'll give a quick overview of the model. I'll stop and see if anyone has any questions. So this is the whole history of DIGG prices as what we're kind of using. And obviously, like if the vault's successful, this is like rewriting history a bit. But the way it generally works is it will the vault's going to hold two assets. So that itself is new. It's going to hold DIGG and it's going to hold WBTC. And then as there are positive rebases, the idea is to build up that WBTC balance, but we don't want to hamstring DIGG's ability to grow. So, and also as a economically optimizing actor, you want to let it kind of run. So what we do on the vault is only sell DIGG and buy WBTC when there's a positive rebase, but the price is falling. So you kind of want to wait till it's kind of like had its run up and then the price is falling. And then we'll start moving, building into that WBTC balance. Conversely, when we're in a negative rebase territory, we wait for the price to start increasing. And increasing and decreasing all of this happens on the rebase time. So it'll happen at rebase, ideally atomically. And so it's, I'm saying price is going up or down. It's just really price at the rebase today relative to price at the rebase yesterday. Similar, conversely, when we're in negative rebase territory, we wait for the price to start increasing. So that's kind of like if you're thinking of yourself as that economically, rational actor, you are saying, okay, well, I'm going to wait for the price to kind of start going up again before I start building back into my position. And that hopefully will kind of accelerate the move back to the peg. So the idea with this one is kind of like accelerate the moves back to the peg. And if people know this is out there, hopefully they're incentivized to start getting those positive price movements. So if you're buying DIGG and, if you're a whale or if you're whoever is kind of, see the price about to be positive relative to yesterday and you're in negative rebase territory, that this vault's going to go out and do a big buy. So you might be incentivized to then buy some more to get it back, get a positive price move. So it doesn't have to get it above the peg, but get a positive price move. That's the general structure of the vault. And then we have a few different parameters that we can tweak for to control the impact. So I think that's very important. We don't know exactly how this is going to play out. We have our general assumptions for how it'll work, but we need to have some controls once it launches. So we have basically a multiplier and some supply chain factors. So the supply chain, and I can share this sheet out as well for people that want to see it. But when we're looking at how much to sell, let's go here. So DIGG to sell. It's basically saying, okay, if we're in positive price change territory, positive rebase, then it's we're going Kale and D12. So we're taking like using the amount of price change. So we're basically, it's like a multiplier on like, okay, how much did the price change? And then applying a multiplier or factor, I guess, to that, because it's under 1, to then determine how much of it to sell. So we can, if you move that up to 1, it would basically sell like all of the positive, all of the relative of the price change from yesterday to today. It would sell like that same percentage relative to the positive rebase amount. It's a little tricky to describe verbally, and it's something that I'm working on kind of a written post about it that'll probably detail it better. And more than happy to kind of share this, share this spreadsheet as part of it as well. So yeah, I guess I'll stop there. That's kind of the I guess Stability Vault history, kind of how we're thinking about it, and then functionally a bit about how it works. Anyone got any questions?
Yeah, and feel free to use the chat too, guys.
Yeah. If you don't want to speak up, toss them in the chat, and I'll read them out and respond there.
I'm not sure if I saw any talk in the chat or if there's been any ideas thrown around about the idea of maybe utilizing some of the rewards instead of paying them out to individuals, but literally taking some of the rewards and selling those in to buy DIGG as a form of buy pressure there too. Has that ever been discussed?
What do you mean? Like the DIGG rewards?
Not necessarily the DIGG rewards, but maybe some of the rewards from some of the vaults, just as a way to support this product, this Badger project and product, maybe just utilizing some of the rewards, maybe taking away some of the rewards from one vault or any vault and pushing them towards DIGG as a little bit of buy pressure.
Yep. So, we only emit rewards in Badger or DIGG. So if you wanted to create buy pressure, it would have to be selling Badger for DIGG. Right now, it's not fully implemented, and that's not like adjusting like day to day, but we are doing it manually while we get the rewards refactoring finished. Is peg-based rewards. So while DIGG is under peg, if it's under peg by more than I think it's like 15 or 20%, the DIGG rewards go 100% to DIGG vaults. They don't go to other vaults. So that's, it's not necessarily creating buy pressure, but it's hopefully reducing sell pressure by, it's rewarding DIGG stakers versus non-DIGG stakers with the DIGG.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So Kay asked, it was mentioned that the big BDIGG vault will evolve into the Stability Vault. Is that still the case? Yes. So as far as launch plan goes, what we're thinking right now, so this is currently in audit, the code for this vault with QuantStamp. It's gone through security review, and currently we're working out a plan to see how quickly we can actually get this launched, probably in some sort of gated and limited launch, kind of like we're doing with the Urine Vault, where we have like a deposit cap. So we just kind of want to see how it operates, make sure it's safe, yada, yada, yada. And we'll have kind of a stepwise approach to increase. And then the goal is to eventually swap the strategy so that BDIGG becomes the Stability Vault. But we'll have to figure out how it happens. We'll make it so that users don't have to do anything. I don't know if we'll be able to swap the strategy, add the strategy on, or if it's going to have to be some sort of like atomic, deposit, redeposit thing like that. We'll do our best to make sure it's, seamless for users. But yeah, the goal is to have it the single asset vault doesn't do anything. It's just a place to put your DIGG and you get more DIGG. And that's BDIGG. And we don't want to change that asset because we're already incentivizing BDIGG to be as an LP position in other places. So we don't just say okay, this one's dead, come to this new vault. But so this will start as a separate vault just because, we can't just pull that switch day one. But once I think everyone's comfortable with the security of it, then the idea would be to make it be basically backing BDIGG. Will be sub-default. Will there, second part of the question was, will there be some initial seeding of WBTC into the vault? Yeah, so we'll release that as part of the launch the launch procedure that we're going to go through. I do think, and there may have to be a BIP for it. There'll be a cap on the vault initially, but I do think we're going to need to seed it with a little WBTC to start from the treasury. But if we have a $1 million cap on it, we won't have to put that much WBTC in it to at least start the process of getting it going. And we also have one or two things we are looking to do pretty quickly around the launch of that vault to really incentivize some positive rebases. Because what we need is negative price movement above during a positive rebase scenario. So to do that, you need positive rebases, right? So ideally, obviously you just need the price to go up. So got some ideas for how we can do that. We were able to kind of do it. It was only 3 positive rebase days with the meme competition. It won't be that exactly, but something we're pretty excited about. Asked basically about what do we do faced with bad actor trying to manipulate things. We've thought through it, and that's kind of the goal of doing the gated launch, is to learn some more. The one thing that we're kind of talking about now that I think is a bit of a concern is sandwich attacks, where if someone knows that you are making a trade on Uniswap, they can do like flash loans or something like that, or even just use assets that they have to put in liquidity at a funky or trade to make the vault be a funky ratio, and then you trade at a bad price, and then they trade back against you after that. I don't know 100% if the doing this atomically with the rebase will mitigate that, but it's something that we'll definitely be monitoring as we launch to see how it operates, and if we're being targeted in that way. Are we planning to leverage Uniswap V3's new concentrated liquidity capabilities for LPs? Yeah, I'm very excited to see what people put together using Uniswap V3. I think it's like a home run for rebasing assets. I don't want to see how that evolves. It's basically like being able to create your own curve pool. You can incentivize liquidity in a range. I don't think we'll be doing stuff right out of the gate. I think it's like early May is the current target date for Uniswap V3, but I'm very interested to see how that progresses, because you think about it, like all the liquidity that we have now, if that was isolated closer to 1-to-1 Bitcoin to DIGG, then that would create a whole lot more stability. But the issue is, and I'd be interested in how people address this, is there's a cliff, right? Once the liquidity is dried up, then the LPs become 100% WBTC, and then you're just in, there's no safety net anymore. There's just no liquidity. So it's kind of it creates a tighter window, but it's like a super tight rubber band instead of a looser one where it'll stretch, but then it snaps. It'll be harder to snap, but once it snaps, then there's nothing there. So I don't think we're going to take a lead on that probably, but I'll be very interested to see what, hopefully there'll be some interesting services or not services, but protocols or platforms that we can maybe partner with that can be, I think smart liquidity provisioning is going to be something very interesting on Uniswap V3, like even for our regular vaults, that they go up relative to Bitcoin over time. Having something that can incentivize vaults with like liquidity that kind of crawls up would be very cool. Pigeon the Bird is asking about distributing the Sushi Rewards. Yes, it's definitely in the backlog to get the next set of Sushi Rewards out and get that cleaned up. I unfortunately don't have a date right now for that. Asked again, would something like 1 inch to route the trade for the stabilized vault mitigate some of the attack surface? It depends on how people structure the attack, because 1 inch really just it doesn't make the decision at the point of the actual transaction. It's like it visualizes it to you and says, hey, this is the best path to take. But usually when there's an attacker, they can be monitoring and acting like at the, they're monitoring what's in the mempool. So, and putting together their transaction and hopping in at the same time. So at that point, we've already structured our transaction saying, hey, we're going to trade on Uniswap. We're going to trade on, Sushi Swap or whatever. And they'll structure their transaction to attack it. At that point, it's not, okay, we know they're going to rebase, but we don't know where. Let me just put my trades in on Uniswap. And then we choose Sushi Swap and dodge it. So that's a little That's a little tricky. Whipress, if I do have 88,000 unread emails. Yeah, I guess that's I'm an inbox not deleter, I guess. So that's I think my Gmail from that I've had for probably, I don't know, 15 years. Just accumulating. My Badger inbox is clean though. Totally. Taco Cat, has the WBTC Vault already launched? If not, is there any update on when today it will? So not DIGG related, but yeah, I think the launch will be tomorrow for the WBTC single asset Vault. I think there was feedback around the list. This is the first attempt to roll out use the Badger score kind of structure in production. Got some feedback on that. I think that was, definitely taken to heart, adjusted, getting that posted. And I think there's one or two more UI things we kind of had to do anyway. So it's looking that that'll be tomorrow for that initial launch. I think it's relevant to call out too around that launch, and if we're going to do the stability vault kind of in the same manner where it's going to be gated, there'll be a cap on how much can be deposited into it. We'll probably do another whitelist for depositors. Sure, we'll do some incentives on these vaults, but this isn't like opening up the first farm, being the first onto like some new farm where you're going to have 100,000 APY. I think with any of these, if we like boost rewards or anything like that at all, it's like, okay, maybe we get to like 100% APY or something like that, as like an added incentive for the people that come in and kind of take this risk. But that might be for like a week or two. So when you break that down, 100% APY is like 2% a week or something like that, roughly, right? It's 50 weeks. Yeah. So 2% a week. And if you're getting, if you get into something, 2 weeks earlier than someone else, and let's say once the extra added incentives are removed, it goes down to like 30% APY. So that's like a net 70%, 2 weeks. So if we're doing those, you're only looking at maybe like a 2 or 3% difference in your return over that time period. And if we're capping the vault at 1 or 5 or 10 million anyway, or we're capping the user deposits at like half a Bitcoin, if you're talking like 2% or something like that, on half a Bitcoin, you're talking like it's $30,000. So it's like, I don't know, $600. So it's and there's might be added gas in there. So the point is, like, as we're doing these launches and we're experimenting with the Badger score and things like that, it's not like, oh, I lost the opportunity to get this massive return. Like, it'll be probably a max like 2% actual gross return on what you would have deposited anyway, and there's risk involved. So definitely just want more of a thing to reiterate, like that it's not if your address didn't make the list, or if you just didn't get in because it filled up super fast. This is a risk mitigation procedure that we're trying to take so that we can actually get some feedback on the vaults in production, because it's hard. You don't know exactly how everything's going to operate. And it's okay, we'll get these out in the production. We'll reward people a little bit for taking this added risk, not a lot, not a crazy amount. And we'll give certain people that did the certain actions in the system the access to do so. But yeah, it's definitely not disadvantaging the rest of the community, and it's not like huge missed opportunity. So do we have tools to see if someone is attacking the stability vault or front running or whatever? That's a great thing about everything being on chain. It'll be pretty easy to see in the same transaction that we executed, if people are kind of going after it. And it has to be in the same transaction. It has to be in the same, because I guess in the same block. Sorry, not transaction, have to be in the same block. Because we'll be evaluating making our trade all as one transaction, given the information that, is available. So once it is picked up, then it'll, go into it. So someone will have to get their transactions to attack in the same block as ours. So, we can just basically look at all the transactions in a block, see which ones were also took place on Uniswap or whatever, on DIGG, and see how people are going after it. I guess, fortunately, what it usually means is that people are like front running it. And that would mean if we're buying DIGG, that means they're also buying DIGG, which, it might throw off the calculations for the vault. We might have to work something out there, but, at least any attacks should be directionally in line with what we want to happen. So there's that silver lining, I guess. Taco Cat, you mean early adopters of these vaults? Yeah. We're looking at how to do some added rewards. Like I said, I don't think we want to make the rewards too huge, because to be quite honest, if you're someone that has one Bitcoin, and that's your one precious Bitcoin, probably not a great idea for you to be putting half of it into one of these new risky vaults. I'm expecting the people that are depositing here to be more, if the cap is one Bitcoin per address or half a Bitcoin per address or whatever, I'm expecting them to have a lot more Bitcoin. And I don't think we need to go and do massive incentives there. People will jump into them. Like I said, I think the main thing we're trying to do is just get some assets in to test these things out. We will add rewards because there should be some, little added reward. But I don't want to get into rewarding it too much, because then people feel kind of left out, and then you get into the whole okay, we're giving we're incentivizing whales too much. Because I think that's mostly who's going to be hopping into these things. Who's around is going to be able to ape in and, catch things at the right time. I think, there will be more of these vaults. It's not an exclusivity thing. It's not the limits on people letting people into the vault. It's a risk mitigation thing. And this is we're working on kind of a model for even just to promote to developers and people who want to build vaults with us. It's here's the path for a strategy to get presented, and then hopefully quickly we want to get vaults quickly available. And I think it'll be probably more fun on other chains, to be honest, with less gas limits, where maybe if we get some on Binance Smart Chain or Matic or whatever, people to be able to quickly launch new strategies. And maybe it's where, people with smaller amounts of funds put in $1,000 or $500 into a vault. And it's not, sure, you can only earn the 2%, but you're not paying much gas. But as it exists on Ethereum right now, it's totally a risk mitigation, experimentation, technique. It's not hey, let's create some exclusivity hype around the vault and then get people to hop, ape in or whatever. Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? I guess, Jimmy, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but I think the one thing that I don't know, anything you want to share? We've got Jimmy from the Stabilize team here. I don't think he's gonna hop in verbally, but just in the chat. If you have anything you want to share on the vault or how you guys think about it, feel free to pop it in there. I'll read it out. Taco Cat asked about when Claw, asked it 10,000 times. Yeah, Claw and WBTC and IBBTC, the interest-bearing Bitcoin with DeFi dollar, both of those are very close. I personally am excited about IBBTC, and I think it's going to be one of the cornerstones of what we do going forward. Claw is interesting, but it's definitely an experiment, and a little more ephemeral. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do is get a sense of when we'll be able to do the perpetual claw and not have our launch of the limited timeframe clause be too far ahead of the availability for perpetual claw, if that makes sense. Yeah, thanks. Way ahead of me. Yeah, so yeah, we just it's not something I feel like we need to rush out. It'll be a cool thing, it'll be a fun thing, but we've been thinking a lot more after the rush through like February, March, of just trying to get some, stuff from the roadmap out. Like definitely the last week or two have been more of a focus on let's be more strategic with what we're launching and when. So trying to be more thoughtful with some of that stuff. KSR, if one of these vaults had a massive security issue where the funds are lost or locked, will there be insurance payout from the treasury team? So, the community controls the treasury. We don't have, as many of the vaults as we can, and I'll have to see how this operates with some of the existing coverage providers, but you can buy coverage on your deposits at Badger from Nexus Mutual. I think is the most amount. I don't know if any of it is available right now. There's currently not any structure for immediately backstopping any losses from the vaults. If there were, that would come from the treasury, and the community owns the treasury, so we have to kind of figure that out. But it's definitely something that we are, is being considered for a use case. So, and it's a good point. I'd be interested to hear if anyone has any opinions on it. It's not uncommon for the main asset staking to be associated with a backstop of sorts. So some sort of built-in insurance. So you look at, Aave staking, you are providing your Aave as a backstop for any losses or insolvency in the platform. It's definitely been something that's been discussed as a possible down the line proposal to make Badger staking, because right now you're just staking Badger and you're getting more Badger, but putting some utility behind that, and the utility of the staking and where the Badger is going to come from is going to start to be more associated with revenue down, in the not too distant future. And then we could also make that the Badger backing that be used in the case of any losses to make things whole. Now, whether that's sold or, I also think you can do something where instead of people losing value, they lose utility and opportunity cost, where you can take those assets, lock them up for a longer period of time, but then use as collateral to then take out a loan to make that, make people whole wherever necessary. So like I said, there's nothing like that that's out there. And that's why we're doing these kind of gated, guarded launches, so that, it's a lot easier of a discussion of how do we, someone lost $1 million, what do we do? Versus a bunch of people lost $100 million, what do we do? So that's kind of the approach of these gated, staged, capped launches to hopefully mitigate the possibility of those larger events. Yeah, so the initial dig. So another question from Kay. Initial dig stability vault is just the first attempt, and I recall there are other dig stability ideas the team may be thinking of. Anything you can share? You were definitely putting our full weight behind this as our first step. Over the past, this past year, there's been a number of different algo stablecoin launches, none of which have really been super successful. So I think initially there were talks of doing something like Basis Cash or DSD, these bond systems. None of that seems to have worked. There's the FEI, protocol control value. That didn't seem to work, at least out of the gate. We'll see how their changes happen. Frax, I think, has been working pretty well, but they're partially collateralized, which I think, in my opinion, is kind of against the whole point of these algo stablecoins. So while we don't have anything, any immediate follow on, hey, this is the thing we're definitely going to roll out after this, what I think we're interested in is using market forces to stabilize it versus, advanced economic structures. So this is step one, and we have the parameters, the change factors, and a multiplier leverage factor to tweak to hopefully help bring more stability. But I think what we want to do is have this vault drive demand into the vault, and then from there just drive DIGG and BDIGG utility. So if the vault works even a little bit, the bigger the vault is, the better it'll work. So if we can drive BDIGG utility, say, okay, we're already saying that we're going to lead with having BDIGG be the asset that we want to have available on other chains. So if you can drive, utility of BDIGG on Matic, or we can make BDIGG collateral on different platforms and people can start using it to lock up and borrow things, that just means more and more assets are flowing into BDIGG and flowing into the stability set and increasing the increasing the stability ideally. So I think the immediate steps are get this out, get it through the gated launch, get it backing BDIGG, and then during that whole time we're going to be driving BDIGG utility to make that as large of a portion of the vault of the supply as possible, and then ideally it gets to some equilibrium, and then we can look into other things. I think Uniswap V3 opens up some great opportunities to do things like create a DIGG WBTC highly incentivized tight peg vault, one-to-one. So I think or you can make it, you can do it over time, or you could start by saying the incentivized liquidity between 1.2 and 0.8. So okay, within a 20% threshold, and then have some general parameters say, okay, once we're within that threshold for X amount of time, then we tighten it up to 1.15 to 0.85. And you can start from a wider range and focus the liquidity into a tighter range over time. I think cool stuff like that. So part of it's we could have ideas in January, but then it's April, and it's well, okay, now there's all these new data points and new protocols to work with. So we'll go from there. Wheezy K Bruh asks, any update on the DIGG NFT APY? So there's a post in the forum that Chris put out that I actually wrote last week, and I think we'll be having probably a more extensive post as we get the Badger Boost launched. But the DIGG NFTs will be treated like all the NFTs. Badger Boost is a structure for being able to have fully flexible incentives that don't specifically disadvantage any type of participant in the system. It'd be open to hear what people's feedback, but so we have 15 different NFTs that exist out there now. You've got the original Badger NFTs, you've got the DIGG NFTs, you've got these other ones from 0xB1, which I don't know if we want to include them or not, and then we've got the Jersey NFT. So the way that Badger Boost is structured, I'll give a quick overview. It's just some inputs, your Badger balance. That's basically how much Badger and DIGG you have staked, plus any multipliers, plus your LPs, normalized to either dollars or Badger, however you want to do it. So whatever the total value of that is. Compare that to your non-Badger staking stuff. Your Bitcoin stake, roughly. Compare your Badger balance to your non-native staking balance, and that's your Badger ratio is kind of what we're calling it. All addresses are then ordered by their Badger ratio, and then we have a max multiplier of 3 that gets applied to. So let's keep going through it. So you get a max multiplier of 3 for the very top person on that list gets 3, and then it works its way down to a multiplier of 0. Not saying you get, multiplier of 1, meaning you don't get any multiplier. So basically a 1.5 boost in rewards for the top person relative to the bottom person. Now that doesn't, the ratio that the multiplier that you get isn't linear. It goes based off of the total volume of non-native assets staked. So, if you're a smaller depositor and maybe you have a 2.91 multiplier, the next one will just have like a 2.9. But like if you had 10 million staked and you're at 2.91, the next one behind you would be like 2.8 or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works, but like I can, there's a couple posts on it. That then gets applied to when we're distributing the rewards. If you've got, 100,000 Bitcoin value staked, if your multiplier is 3, it'll be treated as 300,000 staked relative to everyone else, because everything that's distributed is done proportionally. What the NFTs will do is we'll use those to boost your Badger balance, which is the numerator and the Badger ratio. So I know there's like multiple steps here, but it just basically we can make it look as if you'll be presented as if instead of your staking, 1,000 Badger, you'll be staked, to show that you'll be presented if you have an NFT boost of, 20%. Then it would show you basically be treated as if you're staking 2,400 Badger. So what we're working on right now is just, okay, how do we have a system in place to accommodate not just the current NFTs, but all future NFTs? So I think what we're going to kind of go with is have like a max NFT boost. So say 100%, the most that you can ever, get boosted for your Badger balance by holding NFTs is 100%. So instead of, like I said, you're staking 1,000 Badger or 2,000 Badger or whatever, then you can max have it be treated as 4,000 Badger if you hold, the maximal amount of NFTs. What we're trying to work out now, though, is, okay, how do we do that? Do we do another thing where we create some sort of NFT score, and then like the top person is the only one that gets that 100, or do we just put like a percentage amount to each NFT, and like you just hold as many NFTs as you want, but like it maxes out at 100%. So maybe like the most common, you just get like a 5% boost to your Badger balance, and the rares, maybe you get like a 20 or 30%, but then you can, the legendaries, you get like a 25% boost to your Badger balance. But then, you can stack up as many of those as you want, but it maxes out at 100. So different ways to handle it, pros, cons, technical lifts, etc. So we're working on that. But yeah, it'll be all that, this Badger score page is the first step towards, we're going to have a Badger boost leaderboard, and then in that you'll be able to see your Badger score. We can also do like your Badger score can play into your Badger boost. If you want to have, okay, I did X actions, you're a DIGG supporter or something like that, like that could go into your Badger boost. Like it's fully maximally flexible. We just are creating, getting this model in place so that we can do these things. So like, I would probably be a supporter for when to say people that like, we're DIGG LPs consistently from, launch till Stability Vault launch or something like that. Like, okay, you can get an added 10%, Badger boost, Badger balance boost. And all of it's relative. So it's not, you can't really just say like, okay, a 10% Badger balance boost gets you an extra 1% on your BTC. But, all right, asks, have you considered making the stabilized vault include multiple assets instead of just WBTC and DIGG? More assets may present more opportunities for arbitrage and stuff. Right. We haven't, just because this is going to be the first like dual asset vault. So it's already a little tricky for managing 2 assets. Probably have a bit coming through where we will need to have a smart contract hold some DIGG. Because it'll be DIGG in, DIGG out if you're depositing and withdrawing. But if people, at the end state, when people are withdrawing their DIGG, at some point, all the DIGG is going to be gone and it'll just be WBTC in the vault. So approve some amount of DIGG from the treasury to service those withdrawals. And it'll be basically like swapping DIGG for WBTC. I don't think it'll be a huge amount. The main reason we're doing WBTC is that's just the asset that we're incentivizing the LPs for. So that's where the deepest liquidity is. If that changes, then probably we'd be open to it. But, I don't think that's anything we're looking to do right now, because I just don't think trading it against RenBTC or any of the other BTC equivalents or any other asset, you're going to be paying a little more because you get the route through different pools on Uniswap versus just trading into one pool. Okay, so another thought is that as more DIGG is utilized in other protocols chains as BDIGG, the price of DIGG may be more volatile due to supply migrating from the WBTC DIGG LPs. Will the DIGG price oracles incorporate BDIGG prices on other chains when calculating the rebases? So I think you're saying so the price of DIGG is going to be the price of DIGG, but the price of BDIGG can definitely vary from its like redemption price relative to DIGG. So, it's 1 to 1.2 DIGG per BDIGG, then that price can change if it's on other chains and there's not like a whole lot of liquidity or whatever. That's part of the reason we want to keep, I think, DIGG focused mostly on ETH layer 1, because it does make it easier, because the price of DIGG is the price of DIGG. The price of BDIGG can vary as it's going to other chains, but the price of DIGG itself, since it won't be trading on other chains, I don't think it should vary. If you're saying it's just going to be less liquid on layer 1, I think that's where hopefully, we get the V3 Vault stuff kind of figured out. And we're going to keep incentivizing LPs. So if the more people withdraw from the LP, the APY will go up. I think it's at like 160% still now. If people pull out, it'll be a couple 100%. If there is a way to do, KSR asks if I want to move wallet addresses to a hardware wallet, will it be a way to move link my Badger score to the new address? No, not right now. And I recognize that's something that people probably want to do, and that's why I don't think we do too much, with Badger score and the Badger boost. The one benefit of Badger boost as structured is that it's kind of like a Sybil resistance mechanism where, in some capacity, where you're incentivized to kind of do all your Badger stuff under one address, or not to have like, oh, this is where I stake my Badger and this is where I stake my Bitcoin. Like, you're incentivized to kind of do it all in one, and then it makes it easier to do those things. I have been thinking through a possibility where we can associate, or we will allow you to mint like an NFT that represents your address's Badger score, or Badger boost or whatever. So this is just something that's been noodled on, and that can then be transferred. So one implication is you could sell. If it's your Badger boost, it's not necessarily associated with your address, but it's associated with the NFTs you hold and the addresses associated with those NFTs. One is you could then have different addresses doing different things, but then you could consolidate your NFTs in one address and then do all of your Bitcoin staking there and get that benefit. I think that could be pretty cool. But then you open up the whole thing, like when people then sell that, but if you sell it, then you remove your stake. The value of that NFT would go down. But yeah, I think it would be nice if we could figure out a way to do the transferability, but it's just not it's not a top priority right now. But once we get it up and running, I think it's something that's probably worth. Once we get all the Badger score and Badger boost and all that stuff up and running, it's definitely something that maybe we could open up a forum, or even if you want to open up a forum chat on it now. I'd be interested to hear how the community would like that to function, because I think there's a couple of different ways you could do it. And it's just, okay, where is the actual demand and what's helpful? I'll just read off what Jomeen from the Stabilized team hopped in, wanted to comment on question. Basically saying really, more assets don't really help, since the vault is designed to collect over time WBTC collateral to stabilize DIGG. Converting DIGG into a partially collateralized asset, which are not WBTC proxies, don't really help in doing that, since you need a collateral asset, which is similar to the asset which DIGG is pegged to. So yeah, I think just reiterating that, if you're thinking assets beyond just Bitcoin pegged or backed assets, it creates an added layer of complexity, and definitely concern for depositors possibly holding different denominated assets, introducing more price risk. Woo! All right, cool. I think we're coming up on time. Really appreciate everyone hopping in. Hopefully this added some clarity. Like I said, there'll be some more updates very soon on timing for availability, and we'll look to do more of like a write-up on it as well to put out there so people can kind of dig into the sheet and, you know, the calculations behind it a little more closely. But I really appreciate everyone hopping on. Great questions. Love it. And, you know, looking forward to getting this thing launched.